Yo, what's up, YouTube? How y'all doing? My name is Combo, and welcome to the first ever episode of my podcast. So before we start with this episode, I just want to give a huge shout out to Casores for being in my first ever episode. Please do go follow him on Twitter and Twitch. He's a very good coach. He's one of the biggest coach names, or most known coach in the contender scene, and probably in the over scene as well. He's a very well known guy. He's a very good coach and a very good streamer. So please do check him out. Huge shout out to him again. If you guys want him to back on the podcast to talk about something else, please do let me know. I'll gladly have him back. He's a great person. And then for next week, or maybe this weekend, depends how this uploads, we'll be having Noob Hunter for episode 2 and Mini-Me for episode 3. Mini-Me is very well known for his Orisa and his play with Team Austria, and now with the Team Avoidant and Clockwork. And Noob Hunter is one of the biggest names in Overwatch. You guys all know him. So if you guys got any questions to them, please put them down below in the comments, or join my Discord and let me know there in #podcast questions. Thank you all again for watching this video or about to watch this video. I know I'm horrible at this YouTube stuff. I promise you I'll try to get better with editing and everything else. So please do subscribe to my channel, and it means so much to me. Or follow me on Twitch and Twitter if you guys want there as well. I stream daily. And if anybody you guys want to see, put them down in the comments. Again, I'm sorry for a shit edited video and that I talk really quickly. And I also want to say sorry for if I do like touch my nose to scratch my nose 24/7, or I'm very I can't sit still at all because of my ADHD and Tourette's. So I'm sorry for that. I'll try calm myself down a little bit. Maybe not drink an energy drink right before an interview next time. But yeah, thank you all again. I'm gonna be bringing out a lot more interviews like this. So thank you all and enjoy the video. Yo, what's up, YouTube? My name is Combo, and welcome to the first ever episode of my new podcast called the Overwatch Podcast. I'm very excited to be here today. Many people have requested this, and we have a very special guest. It is the current head coach of Young and Beautiful, ex-coach of Atlanta Reign, head coach of Team Netherlands in World Cup. Casores, how are you, man?
I'm good. First thing I noted was your creative name, Overwatch Podcast. I like it. Very recognizable.
I was struggling with names, and this is what I came up with. If I get a better name in the future, I'll make that. But for now, that's gonna be the name. But I think it's gonna be easy to find, on YouTube.
Very fair.
Gonna be easy to find.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. It's been a hot day. I've been in a suit all day, like with prom and shit. But I've been looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to this podcast. I've gotten a lot of questions, some questions for myself as well, and a lot of positivity as well from Twitter and Discord, from people excited for this. Because there's a lot of podcasts out there. There's very few podcasts where they have guests they have other guests like Plat Chat, and shout out to Plat Chat and Team Envy for those podcasts. But they talk a lot about Overwatch League, and they don't have like different guests. They just have the same people. So it's kind of like it can be kind of stale and boring at times. But yeah, I'm very excited for this podcast. It's been a long time coming. So I really can't complain, man. I really can't complain.
I'm excited. You're looking to bring some new energy, some variety.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm looking for. So if you get this started, Young and Beautiful, an amazing team. You guys came really far this season, and then it ended against who did you guys lose against? Was it
Raspberry Racers?
Raspberry Racers. Yeah. How was that? How was that for the players? Like after that game, like what was it? Like what were you feeling? What was your players feeling?
I feel everybody was really disappointed, right? Because for the first few weeks of no hero bans meta, and we'll get straight into the meta here.
Yeah, go for it.
I need to line up my excuses, of course.
Yeah.
No, joking. But we played a lot of dive, right? And we are considered with British Hurricane to be the best dive team in the EU. I don't think that's very disputable. But as the weeks went on, people started figuring out that Brig and Torbjorn were just too OP, and they could counter dive. You just played aggressively, right? So eventually the meta started shifting away more and more from dive, and that was my fault too. And we just started maybe practicing the bunker a little too late. but also the dive was still working in scrims, right? But once matches started playing up, I feel like with a comp like dive, you can afford to make less mistakes than with a comp like bunker, right? And
Mm.
especially in matches, mistakes are gonna happen. Small decisions aren't gonna be as fluid just because there's a lot of pressure on the players. So I think just in general, everybody's pretty disappointed about our playoffs because throughout the season, I feel we are the second best team in Europe for basically since week 2, since I joined the team. Um, and we just couldn't show up that way in the playoffs. And then we got shit on by this bunker comp.
Yeah, yeah. Your Osprey Racers impressed me after they lost KZ and Shockwave. I thought they were actually gonna like. I thought they were gonna go like maybe disband or fall a few notches down. But Senny and Wayfast has impressed me, especially Senny. I haven't seen that much of him. I just know that he was in NA Contenders for Square One, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct. Yeah.
And yeah, he's impressed me. Isn't he a Dutchman himself?
Yes. Yes.
I
yes.
think he is. Yeah, yeah. He looked pretty good. But honestly, I think some of the matches like this contender season was actually like, for me especially, I think it was really fun watching. Players like Yikids and Jonah really impressed me, and many other DPS players. But of course, my boy Yikids is Norwegian. So I'm hoping, of course, I was really rooting for him, but it's unlucky that you guys didn't come that far. But next season, you guys can come back pretty strong, I believe, for sure. You guys have a really sick rosters, so I'm excited for that.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, one thing that really surprised me about this contender season is how many new players came up and stomped basically the old guard.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Like teams like Shoes Money Crew, Sheared Cold, Raspberry Racers, even Young and Beautiful has a lot of new and upcoming players like Vistola, and they did a lot better because they're grinding the game so hard still. When I feel like the older players and basically the old guard aren't as motivated anymore. So you can really see who's grinding and who's not grinding, especially in this contender season.
Yeah, Vistola. When I've known Vistola for a while because I'm a very good friend of Beppis, very good DPS player, for Team Disaster, I believe. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I've known Vistola for a while, like probably like 2 years, and he's like, I remember back then he was like who's pretty good, but he always had a really high skill roof or like skill ceiling. And now when he got picked up for Young and Beautiful and with JK Aro, that tank line is just solid. That's a really good tank line for sure. And I was very excited to see how far Vistola could go with a coach like you, like of your caliber, like an ex-Overwatch League coach, coming in for Young and Beautiful and helping Vistola even get better. So it was very fun seeing him do really well. So yeah, I think like you said, I think there's a lot of new talent. I thought we were gonna lose a lot of talent due to like new games and the contenders. This format was kind of garbage, but a lot of players has impressed me. Sika with like Sheer Cold, they came in like as a strong contender. They ran through Open Division and contenders now, and then obviously he's in Shoes Money Crew, but he's been insane. There's so many players that I've never seen before. Maybe like in Tier 3 that's coming in this season and just been truly amazing. Like Grathens, I think that's his name. Pronounce it.
Yeah, Grafen.
He when the Sika left Sheercold, I did not really know. Like when they picked up Grathens, I was like, yeah, he's probably like pretty decent. But he impressed me a ton, and really did well. So I think I'm very excited for the future of EU contenders. There's a lot of talent out there, especially in Tier 3, and not that many people have quit as I thought. And even though old players leave, there's always going to be new talent there. Ready to take those spots. So Overwatch League. Let's talk a little bit about Overwatch League before we go back to a little bit Young and Beautiful. Because I want to hear this. So your time in Atlanta Reign, how was it? How was it being an Overwatch coach and living in a team house?
It's great. Being so close and connected to the players really steps up your coaching, right? Really shows you why you're doing it and what you're doing it for, and being a mentor for these players. It was a really good time. And all the Reign players are really good friends of mine still, and they're really good at the game, really good students. So I very much enjoyed my time with Atlanta. I think the team, the players, and the coaches are very good. Yes, the house was also amazing. And unfortunately, this season I couldn't continue with them because they really, they have Korean players, so they really felt strongly that they needed a Korean coach, and we already had enough coaches, so I unfortunately had to be let go. But at the same time, you close that door and it opens up for new doors in the future. So I'm still looking for a team for Overwatch League now, and I'm confident that I can get a new team. I'm learning Korean currently, working very, very hard at that. Already able to speak some conversations, right? Basic conversations, not that great. I'm looking to go to Korea this year, and I'm still grinding. I'm streaming. I'm doing Contenders head coaching, of course, and then doing the World Cup this year was also an amazing opportunity. I think I'm cursed though, Combo. I think I'm completely cursed. You want to know why?
Yeah, go for it.
In Overwatch League, I ended fifth, sixth. In World Cup, I ended
Fifth,
fifth,
sixth.
sixth, and now in Contenders, fifth, sixth. It's a curse. I gotta break it.
Yeah, but honestly, like seeing you getting released for Atlanta Reign, I remember like I was scrolling through Twitter because this was. Did you get released after World Cup or right before?
It was right before.
Right before, yeah.
I think it was announced after World Cup. But,
yeah, that's what. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Because I remember like when you guys were in World Cup, I remember like this team with players who barely have played contenders. Players like Dance. Bruce has been there for a while, but players like Dance and Jonah hadn't been in like the top tier 2 scene for a while. They were just recently in the top tier 2 scene. They were playing versus some of the best players in the world, and they impressed so much. I think they impressed so many people. Like Dance got picked up for Atlanta Academy, Bruce for Overwatch League. Facility was ruining people on Doomfist. Somehow didn't get a trial. Of course, he's retired now, which is super sad. But yeah, I think seeing you guys do this well with you guys coaching like the head coach, and then going through Twitter and then see we have released Casores or Parted Ways. I really like. I was like, wow, why the fuck would they do this? Uh, but yeah, I think you have. I think of course you have. I think next year, when Corona's over, I think you and many other coaches will have a great opportunity because there's a lot of teams in Overwatch League who barely have coaches right now, or who has really poor coaches. In my opinion, I'm not going to say names. We're not on this channel to to harass someone, but I think there's a lot of teams that could use a lot of new coaches. So I think this is definitely going to be a lot of potential for you and many others to come. So I'm very excited for that. So the World Cup, how was it? What was the toughest team to play against? And for example, who was your scrim partners and such?
I think our biggest scrim partner for the World Cup was Team UK.
Yeah.
Because they from Europe, obviously, so we were able to scrim them in Europe, and then also when we were in LA, though, our biggest lead up to the World Cup was scrimming. So Team UK was our biggest scrim partner. They did good against us, right? Really I'd say we honestly, with the names they had and the amount of Overwatch League players they had, I think it was like pretty 50-50 in scrims between us. So we were, going into that, we were like, hey, we can go toe to toe with like one of the best teams in our opinion, because okay, obviously the previous year they did super good. So our scrims went well. I think the atmosphere for Team Netherlands is really what did it. And this is one thing I think a lot of people, coaches, players overlook. But the most important thing I look at when I'm coaching is the culture in the team and the way people support each other. Because I've seen teams that have a very, focus on yourself culture, but I've also seen teams that have a very play for the team and focus on improving the team. And we are all grinding, that kind of atmosphere. And I think that's exactly what we had in Team Netherlands. And that is what made us so good, I believe. Yeah. And obviously, we got beat by Team France. So that was our hardest match.
Yeah.
And I feel like strategically, we had the better plans, but they had so much experience on that team.
Yeah.
That they just ended up, soon started stepping up.
He did really well.
Stepping up, So their veterancy and their experience in competitions is really what pulled through for them, and that's how they were able to take us. But I'm still very happy with how we did with Team Netherlands, even with that team, I couldn't break the 5th-6th curse.
Yeah, they look really, really good. Or you guys look really, really good. So how was World Cups? Because like I was in Team Norway. I was like the 12-man roster. I'm not gonna go in about that because like it was kind of shady. Just throwing it out there. But I know that when you were there, I think in my personal opinion, World Cup was like it was a very shit World Cup format or how it worked. Because like half of the games wasn't even streamed. Like the beginner games, I think it was qualifiers for group stages or some shit. Those were played behind the scene or like behind curtains in a Blizzard room with like no games of them streamed. I feel like so many players got cucked. Like Norway, they got no games streamed. Imagine DCOD, Onigod, two of the best Norwegian players out there, getting stream time on, for example, like an Overwatch League channel, like many others as well from many other countries who maybe only had one or two good players, but they could actually step up and carry this team and show that they're Overwatch League caliber and get a trials. So I really feel like for many of the teams that wasn't that great or aren't like an insane team, I feel like a lot of them got cucked, seriously like cucked, as well as you had to pay for the expenses yourself. You didn't get to pay if you were outside top 10, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was a pretty like messy World Cup. So I'm hoping with not using money on this World Cup that maybe next year it's gonna get better and all games get streamed, because I feel like so many players use World Cup as a place to show themselves, because Contenders is like maybe like in Contender, like the difference between Contenders team and your national team can be huge for calling and all that. But like maybe for example, like as a Norwegian player, some Norwegian players who are who haven't been in Contenders, like Henki, a very good flex support. Imagine him getting like screen time on Overwatch League. Contenders staff could see this. It's such a big window for Contenders staff and Overwatch League staff to look at players who are maybe unknown. So I feel like it was a little bit unfair. Like, what is your opinion on the World Cup? How did for you guys?
I believe that there's already been a lot of hate on the World Cup, right? It obviously wasn't managed as well as it could have. Obviously, the prelims were kind of a mess.
Yeah.
But I do also want to say that I think World Cup is mostly a fun event. Obviously, it's a place where people can show their skill.
Yeah.
But it's also inconsistent, right? Because there's
I
also
agree.
a ton of people from countries where they just can't represent. Like if you're an American tier 2 player, you're not going to play because there's enough American Overwatch League players.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can look at like, hey, this flex support in Norway could be insane and could show up in the World Cup. But I really feel like Contenders and Gauntlet and Atlantic Showdown is the place for that. While World Cup is also a place for that, but it's not guaranteed for anybody.
Yeah.
Which I think is like the problem, right? Because maybe Henki would have played in Norway, but if he was in America, then he wouldn't have played at all. So it's like you have to put that into perspective. And then I think the path to pro is just the best way to go, even though
100%,
that's also not always been as reliable, right?
Yeah, sadly.
They are showing to be improving on it and promising to be improving on it, and I'm excited to see what they'll do. But obviously, World Cup's inconsistent, and I do hope that for next year, because I had such a great time coaching Team Netherlands, obviously, as well, and we did so good, it's done better, and I hope to see it come back, too.
Yeah,
because
me too.
We don't even know that, because BlizzCon's not even happening this year, so who says World Cup will even come back,
Yeah, like one thing I know that is very unfair for the teams in World Cup. I'm not saying Team Netherlands did it. Team Norway, though, otherwise. I'm just going to throw you out there. But anyways, I feel like nepotism is a big thing in World Cup. Again, I'm not saying it you, but I've had experience with nepotism. And I know other players on other national teams have had experience with nepotism. Because how it works, like, of course, for you people who don't know how World Cup works, there is you represent yourself as a coach or a manager, and then the people of that country can vote on you, and then there's different stages to vote, and then the person who gets the most votes at the end becomes the manager, social media manager, and coach. The problem here is that in some countries, maybe don't have that many players, or the coach isn't that professional. That coach is going to pick friends, and then it's going to be, instead of professional, like you said, a showcase room is going to be for fun. The thing is, like, I think World Cup is like a medium part, but I still think it's a fine showroom for some countries, and can probably help for sure. World Cup was, I think like one of the things I'm most disappointed in is how Overwatch League coaches or Overwatch League teams, some Overwatch League teams are really like poor at scouting and giving trials to players. I'm gonna throw it out there. Fisher and Facility, two of the best Doomfists I've seen in a while in World Cup. They got so much love on Twitter and from Overwatch League players like Super Sinatra in interviews. Both of them were just out of this world on Doomfist and other heroes, and none of them got any Overwatch League trials. That's public at least on Twitter, and both of them retired. And it's super sad to see talent like that just gone because obviously coaches and managers are not good at really scouting, and hopefully it becomes better over the next few years. Especially like you see yesterday, finally, after 4 years of Kevster smurfing in Contenders, he got picked up to LA Gladiators, and I'm very happy to see that. So I'm hoping that scouts and Overwatch League managers, coaches, all that start scouting, because I know like people might disagree with me here. Of course, you might disagree with me, but I just feel like there's like there's a certain amount of players who gets picked up in Overwatch League. Obviously, like some teams have different salary caps, expenses and all that. I feel like some players that get picked up or are just riding the bench all season for multiple season are like, and they're just there for money and they're still not released. Like I feel like there's so many players who deserves trials or just to be in Overwatch League that aren't, because scouts aren't doing their job. But obviously I have no like inside sources of Overwatch League, so I don't know how all of this works. But can you maybe tell us a little bit about the scouting for Atlanta Reign? I don't know if you can leak all of that, but like some public information, like example, how you guys did trials or how you guys picked up some of the players. Yeah.
I believe trials for Atlanta Reign were done very, very well. We reached out to over 100 players asking for VODs,
Yeah.
right? We scouted those VODs. We invited people for trials, and then we picked like the best players for final trials, and then we picked players. Is how the Reign did it. I do believe though that there's some essence to truth what you're saying,
Yeah.
but there's also a lot of technical aspects, right? It's easy to say, hey, why didn't this player, why didn't that player
Yeah, obviously
get
that's
picked
what
up? Like in for the cases of Facility, Fisher, Leaf, all very good players, of course.
Yeah.
But the amount of teams in Overwatch League that are Korean or mixed Korean, there's 70% of Overwatch League is Korean right now. Especially flex DPS and main tank positions are very Korean heavy focused. So you can't just, get somebody just because they're good.
Yeah,
There's like a lot of technical aspect. There's contracts. And also, I believe teams had a lot less time for scouting the last season than the season before that.
Oh, okay.
And there's also teams that had really good scouting, like the LA Valiant, right?
Yeah, that
they
really
are
good
a
scouting.
team
That impressed me a lot.
How good their scouting was, and obviously there's also teams that less good scouting. But I think there is a lot of technical aspects, and you can't just say, "Hey, Overwatch League in general trash at scouting," because most coaches are really good at their job and they see talent when they see it. There is just a lot of limitations, right?
Yeah, that's why I said from my view it looks weird, but obviously I don't have like Overwatch League exactly how it is, but like from me and many other like viewers, Overwatch League viewers, it's all over Twitter and Reddit as well. Like a lot of us thinks like, why is he not picked up? But obviously, if you think about it, some teams just can't pick them up because of different reasons, like you said. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. I do agree with what you say as well. I just hope more players, more Western players come in the league, because I know a lot of them and I've watched a lot of them for a long time. Of course, like I think it's fine that Korean players are in Overwatch League. I don't have anything against them. I'm just saying that I just like having Western players because I know who they are. I like seeing I'm a big fan of some of them, and I like having the league having more Western players and mixed rosters. I feel like that's a bit more fun having a little bit of different nationalities and all that mixed in. But yeah. So obviously, Atlanta Reign picked up maybe one of the biggest names in Overwatch history, Defran, last season when you were a part of the team. how was it? Did you guys reach out to him? Did he like want to trial? How did it all come together with the fan? Obviously, don't say what is. Obviously, like he's not gonna tell me every single bit because some of it might be private. But like, is any public things you can share about how it was getting the fan on Atlanta Reign and how the process was?
I think that's a process I wasn't too involved in, and
Okay.
also a process I'm not gonna like explain
Yeah, of course.
everything
Yeah, don't. Yeah,
of
yeah.
course about, because I know it's personal to some of the other coaches on the
Yep.
reign, that kind of stuff. I can't go into like how working with the friend was and how good he was to
Yeah.
work with.
Go for it. Go for it.
He he came into the league as a very unexperienced Zarya, because obviously he had to play Zarya, right?
Mm.
And we as a team worked really hard to he was a very solo queue style Zarya where his tracking's insane, his energy farming's insane, right? He knows when to take high ground and when to zap people, when to take off angles. And it was up to us to transform that more into a team style, right? Just like how Shock did it with Sinatra.
Yeah.
And the friend did that really good. And at the end of the day, he chose not to, pursue the Overwatch League anymore. We all respected that, and we mutually parted ways. And I think everyone on the reign is still good friends with the friend.
Yeah, it's very honestly. Actually, I think it's very sad to see him retire from like full time streaming. He's doing like when I saw the tweet, I thought he was like lost a bet or something. But I wish Friend nothing but the best. He's been a great inspiration for me on his DPS or how his playstyle, his streaming, everything is that like that. I think he's a very fun content creator. But one thing I really like wish we saw in Overwatch League was more of his DPS. Like, obviously, I'm not saying it's your guys' fault because Goats was very meta. But I think me and many other fans really wish that meta was something different, so we could see his Tracer. Like, imagine like a Tracer die with the Fran. Like, I think that would just be insane to see how good his Tracer is in Overwatch League. In Overwatch League scalings to other Tracers, because we didn't really say that much. We did see the Torpedo, which was pretty fun. But yeah, Atlanta Reign. I think it's when you guys came into the Overwatch League, you guys had Sephi as head coach, and Sephi was previously with my favorite team, SF Shock. So you guys see his shirt there, of course. So
Yeah.
many of you guys know.
And the hat.
Yeah, I like the hat as well. Yeah, I'm a big Shock fan. Shout out to Andy Miller and Brett. But yeah, so Sephi did like okay-ish with Shock. Like it ended like a little bit under table, and a lot of people weren't really happy with how they played and the play style, and some of the talent got picked up. So many people like on Reddit at least, and on some on Twitter were like, when he was hired, they really thought that it was gonna be a bad decision to hire him. But last season I don't remember exactly where Atlanta Reign ended, but you guys, what do you say?
5/6.
Yeah. So you guys did pretty good. Like it was pretty good with the roster. And you had some really good pickup and some really good talent there as well. And many people thought you guys were going to be like 10th or 11th maybe, because you had some players who weren't that experienced. But you guys really impressed me, and I was really rooting for you guys throughout the season to do well. And I'm really happy to see Atlanta Reign do well last season, and then they're doing okay this season. They have some issues here and there in different metas, but I think Sephi impressed a lot of people, and I've been a big fan of him. I think he's a great guy. So how was it working with Sephi as a coach? What do you guys do, and what was he like? What is his like really expertise, if you can say that without being like private information?
I mean, I think everybody knows that his expertise is scouting level. He's
Yeah.
really good at scouting talent that maybe other people don't see. And I also think he's just a great coach, a great human being. He cares for everybody, and really wants to promote a good culture in the team, a good atmosphere. And I have nothing but good words for him, and working with him was incredible.
Yeah. So, so you guys had like a massive house, and I'm guessing how is it being like, so it's me and many other contenders player. I'm not a contenders player, but me and other tier 3, tier 2 players. None of us when we were playing was never in like a team environment like an Overwatch League team, because you're playing right next to each other. How is it being in each other's ass pretty much and scrimming and being with each other for like months at a time? Like how is that a social wise? Like
I think there is ups and downs to it, right? Obviously, you're always together, so you can't get a break from your teammates, which is rough,
hmm,
right? But also there is the very social aspect where you create a bond with your team and you really get together. You can have constant talking about, for example, Overwatch and constant improvement, right? Like right after scrims, we'd sit down and we'd go over like how the scrims went, what went wrong, look at some examples, that kind of stuff. We ate together, um, talking with each other, right? We did exercise, etc. together. Like I think almost every night you found me, Gator, Kodak, Dogman in the gym, that kind of stuff, right? So
hmm,
it's you really create bonds with your teammate, but you also can't really get a break from them. And this think I think ties into the whole debate of there's a lot of teams that have apartments and then a team facility,
hmm,
and there's a lot of teams that have a team house. And I think it really depends on your players and what your goal is as a team as to what you want. Because I know on the rain, for example, some people wanted apartments because then it felt a little more professional. They could take a break from their team. You know, they could take a go home if they really wanted to, which you can't really do in a team
yeah,
house.
yeah,
Um, so it's like there's ups and downs to it. At the end of the day, now I know the rain's in apartments. I don't know if that's better for them. I can go back and ask, but I think there's a real conversation and a thinking going on behind, hey, do we put our players in a team house or hey, do we go apartments and a team facility? And I think that is something that's super interesting to me. I think if you have older players in general
yeah. Hmm.
that have girlfriends that have, need their own space and their own time, I think apartments are a better choice, but especially with younger teams that maybe don't have as much discipline, right? A team house is very, very good because you can check what they're doing at a lot of times, and if they're late, you can just walk upstairs and then call for them, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I see a lot of players have moved into apartments. Yeah, I think yeah, Philly, Atlanta Rain, Shock, we're all in big houses together, and I've seen all of them have moved into apartments now.
Hmm.
Obviously, that might be because houses were maybe more expensive, and because like more travel and all that as well. But I see both I see both views of pros and cons on both sides, for sure. Um, so if we jump a little bit away from Overwatch League now, because I know a lot of people want to know a lot about contenders. So this season for Young and Beautiful, as you mentioned, you ended fifth and sixth. Before you guys started the season, how was the process of trials? How did you guys pick up the players you did? What was the thoughts behind some of the players? Obviously, don't obviously there's something. Obviously, you can't say everything, but like into like a certain level, what can you say about how trials and scouting and all that went?
I'll talk a little bit about my process with Young and Beautiful, right? Because I actually wasn't there for the whole trial process.
Oh,
I
okay,
joined
yeah.
them mid season,
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, okay, okay.
because I was very focused on myself after the rain. Obviously, I wanted to get my stream going, wanted
Mm,
to do some other stuff, and then obviously I'm good friends with Join Voice Please, who's the manager for Young and Beautiful, and Jonah, who's a player. Trialed with some other teams before that period, but eventually came to Young and Beautiful.
mm.
And honestly, before that, they were kind of a dickhead team. Like they would stomp people at scrims, and they have this reputation where they would role swap and stuff, right, in scrims.
Oh,
So my first demand when I joined the team was, hey, if I'm joining this team, you guys are never role swapping ever again. Having fun is good, but trolling is terrible.
yeah.
And they kept their promise. They never trolled another game again. No role swapping, at least for the 2 months I think I was with them.
Mm,
So I hope that reputation started shaking off a little bit. Um, and overall, just really dedicated and good players, and really it shows what hunger tier two players has, right? Vistola, JK, IB, all of them. They just come into every scrim trying really hard and wanting to improve. I sent them notes, right, of what they have to do and work on the next week. They implement it instantly, and we work together as a team in keeping this atmosphere similar to what I did in World Cup and keeping the strive for improvement. I think that's one of the reasons why we did so good throughout the regular weeks. Obviously, it didn't translate as well into playoffs, but I don't blame the players for that at all, right? And we just misread the meta a little bit and started practicing spam a little too late. Um, but yeah, I think my whole journey with Young and Beautiful was pleasant. And, if the team stays together for next season or if I stay with them, don't get any different offers, I am excited to keep working with these players.
Yeah. So about each player, we can start with tank line. Is there anything like super special about JK Aru and Bristola? Like how do they work how do they work as a team? Like are they them two? How do they work as a duo? Because I know a lot of people respect them a lot. I know a lot of people really like Aru as a main tank and Bristola as an off tank. How do they work as a duo? Like, how do they fill each other out? If you know what I mean.
I think let's start with JK. I think JK has a very specific play style where he works a lot on doing plays that the enemy team doesn't expect, right? Like he will flank on Orisa where no other Orisa will flank. He will, flank on Winston and maybe hide a lot on Winston, right? So it's really where JK comes up with his own plans and what he wants to do in the next fight, which I support that sort of calm structure a lot, right? Where players think for themselves, they make plans. And then Vistola and mainly the rest of the team like following up on that sort of stuff. And just the comp structure as a whole, I want the team to feel like they can make plans for their own, right? Like they don't always have to work into a specific, hey, on this map, we have to hold this corner and we're going to play it like that and that, right? Because every situation in Overwatch is different. So you as a coach and I as a coach can't spell everything out for the team. So it's more about teaching them how to think for themselves than teaching them just, hey, on this map, you have to play this corner every single time, And I think JK is someone that really works with that thought because he will do different stuff every time and he will surprise the enemy team. And even if it's not the best play theoretically, just because the enemy team doesn't expect it, it'll work, right?
Yeah, and what about Vistola? Because now a lot of people think very highly of him as a very very good off tank, and one of the best off tanks in the league. How is he? How does he play with JK and the rest of his team? Like, what's his like superior strengths, if you can say that?
I think Vistola is really hungry, right? He's not a super vocal player.
Yeah.
But where he shines is that he improves every single day I've seen him play. And every time I give him any feedback, he will apply that instantly. And he's just a sponge, Like, I think when he came into Contenders, people viewed him as a super good Sigma, and he still is a super good Sigma.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people didn't see his Diva as very good. And throughout the weeks that he played Diva, he improved every single day. And I think now he's also one of the best Divas in Contenders. And he's mostly, he follows up on JK really well, right?
Yeah.
So that's why dive between them also worked really well, where JK is calling, hey, let's dive that on the Winston, or Ivy would call, hey, this guy's discorded, and then JK would be like, okay, I'm going in, and then Vistola would just follow,
Yeah, for sure. So if you go for supports, one of the supports I have, he actually broke through with my team. Back in 2018, my memory is horrible with the dates and all that. But I think in 2018, I created a team called Team Quickstart. I was a fucking horrible manager, and now my structure was garbage. But somehow I created a team with Dance and I'll Be the Best, who I call Will. So if I call him Will, that's why we call him Will, because it was much easier to say. Will, when we first saw him in the first trials, he was very quiet, but his raw mechanical talent was just insane. I remember we saw his Sen and Ana the first time, and he had some weird callings, but we were like, dude, this guy's mechanical talent is just insane. And we picked him up for a team, and he became one of the best flex supports in OD that season. and him and Dan become really good friends, and they still are. And them two were just insane. His mechanics on Zenyatta, because it was Goats meta. His mechanics on Zenyatta was just out of this world, and him being in Team Germany and then picked up for Young Beautiful, it made me really really happy. So him and Gustav are, in my opinion, one of the strongest support duos in Contenders. How is it working with them? How is it working with them two as a backline? And how are they with each other? How does it work as a duo as well?
I think just like you said, IB is one of the best mechanical supports in
Yeah.
Contenders right now, if not the best.
Yeah.
Um, and he's really not he's really not quiet anymore.
Isn't he?
Will
Oh, okay.
shout when he wants something done. So he's opened up in that sense. I think Young and Beautiful helped him with that a lot too. And I just think they work really well together as a support line, right? Like Gustav, his ult tracking is immaculate. Like I think he is really good ult track. He's like always on point, even in percentages, right? You'll say like this guy's 60%, and then he'll be like 62%. I'm like, whoa. But I think it works really well where IB will call like, hey, I'm gonna push this, and Gustav will be like, okay, hey, I'm with you, you know? And that's why, you know, the Brig Zen with the dive worked so well for us, because IB would be like, hey, I'm pushing this shit, and then Gustav would like armor pack him and they'd push together. I think IB's really opened up as a player, and he's really impressed me coming into this season, because obviously I didn't know a lot of the players in Young and Beautiful before I joined them as coach. But he is one of the players that's really impressed me, and I think if he keeps on this track, he can get Overwatch League easily, right? Because you see him like improving. Like you said, he came from open division, really fulfilling that path to pro kind of stuff.
Yeah, because I remember like when we were playing Goats, I remember he would go on, like sometimes he would go on these insane flanks and peek these insane angles and just get a pick, and then he would just be okay, let's push. Like he would barely talk, and then he would like sometimes, of course, he would talk Discourse because we got him to talk a little bit more. And I remember him evolving to this insane mechanical player, because like especially in dive as well, Sen can do a lot of damage, and especially with Discords, and if he gets armor pocket as well, he can do a shit ton of damage. And having I'll be the best in your backline, who's now rebranded to I don't remember what name.
Yeah, he's rebranded to Khan.
Khan, yeah. So yeah, I just remember him being an insane player. I still really have the best of hopes for him. And Gustav, he was in Shoes Money Crew, right? I think.
Shoes Money Crew, yeah, and
yeah,
some other. Gustav's been in the scene for a while.
Yeah, yes, like, I remember him for a while. Yeah,
scene for a while.
Yeah, because I feel like Young and Beautiful has a really good squad, especially like with names on the paper. They're a really good squad, especially the backline or pretty much everything. To be honest. I feel like it's a really, really good squad and really noticeable players. So for DPS, you have Yikids, a future superstar of Norway. I'm calling it right now. If he continues to play Overwatch, my man will be the future superstar of Norway. Everybody is like, I feel really bad for him because everybody was hyping up for Overwatch World Cup. And then the age restriction came, and I remember just being in the Norwegian Discord, and this man was like, just tilting. He was like, why the... he was so sad. I 100% understand him. Because Yikids is just... I feel like he's just insane. Because I remember like a year back or something like that, I remember he was trialing or filling for my team once. I remember he was a bit like... When he was in comms, he was a bit... He was very young. He was like, not immature, but he was like... He would be like... When he dies, he would be like, oh... Like he would like... have unnecessary comments, but I have so much respect for him as a player. He's such a good player, and I think he's a very role model for many other young players out there who can't get Overwatch League because they're too young. And Jonah, a big name in the scene, has been there for a while. He was with with Boger and Cafe in them. That's when I remember wasn't he there? I'm pretty sure
that was pretty recent. I'm not sure what that team was called, but he's been on many teams.
Yeah, many teams. Yeah. So how is it working with them as them two as a DPS duo? Because like, aren't they? I know Yikids is flex DPS who plays some hit scan, and then Jonah is hit scan who plays some projectile. If I'm not too mistaken now. How is it? How do they fill each other out? Like, how is it working with them? Because I know they are both extremely raw talented. I don't know what's it raw, but very very talented. And I know both of them are kind of vocal. At least from my experience, they're both kind of vocal.
Definitely, Jonah is a really vocal. Yikit's not as vocal at the start, but when it comes down to it, he can tell the team to push the fuck in and go really hard.
Mm.
I think Yikits in general is the definition of a raw talent.
Yeah.
Right now he's been in the scene for a little bit, right?
Yeah, like 1.5 years ish.
Yeah, this is my first season working with him, and I think he's so quick at picking up new characters, right? Like Echo just came out, and I think he's the best Echo in Europe. I'm willing to say.
All right, I respect it.
I think he is really good at like every single character except for maybe Widowmaker and Tracer, right?
Yeah.
So he is like the definition of like a flex DPS. And he's really easy to work with, right? Like when we were playing that whole Maycree Reinhardt meta.
Yeah.
At first he'd be quiet, right? And then like 1 week in, I got him to call every single Maywall. He'd Maywall just right behind the enemy Reinhardt, and we just rolled him over. That kind of stuff. So yeah, he is really talented. It's a shame he's not 18 because I'm sure if I'll scouting could see him in trials for the Overwatch League teams, he would be one of the players that could pick up for sure because he's just so flexible. And I feel like the age of DPS, just being able to play the flex DPS, the projectile DPSs and the hit scan DPS is starting to like fade more and more. I feel like DPSs that are the whole package and can play almost every single DPS at an Overwatch League level are getting picked up more and more. Like Kevster, right? He got picked up just now, so he's a hot topic. I think he can play every single character.
Yeah, pretty much.
That is a DPS at Overwatch League top 5 level, right? And you think of Decay and Erster, those kind of players can just play every single DPS character, and that's why they're the best. And that isn't because they're just insane mechanically at all those characters. They are, but I also feel like there's some sort of awareness and target shooting and where they need to be in a fight, like a sort of intuition. And I feel like Yikits can also get to that level of intuition where he's able to play like every single character, except for maybe Widow, right? But Widow is a character you just have to grind, and it's just clicking heads. It's not as much about positioning, and I guess positioning not so much, but not as much about timing and that stuff. It's just about clicking heads. And Jonah, obviously, he's a really good friend of mine. He is a true veteran of the game. He's a little bit older, but that doesn't take away from his skill, right? I think he's really skilled at the characters he's grinded for a very long time, like Tracer, like Widow. And he's a leader to the team, sort of, Like, you don't always speak about this with players, and other players from other teams that haven't played with Jonah won't see this. But I think the biggest thing he brings to the team is like kind of having a second coach. It's weird, but whenever I bring something up, he will be instantly like, hey, we could have done this and this and that and that, and this is where we, made mistakes. So he is like very theory focused and very vocal and like kind of like a second coach to the team and a real leader type, And I think that's very, very valuable to have.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think some teams actually have good, like it is good that you have like a little bit older, more experienced player who can help young players who doesn't have that much experience and are still mate trained to become this player they can become. When I see Yikids, I just feel like I see a new Rascal coming up. Rascal is a player who picks up heroes so quick and is so flexible, and he's so good in those projectile heroes. And I really feel like I'm seeing like a Rascal type hero, type player. Sorry, when I see Yikid. So I think Young and Beautiful has a really good roster for next season if they keep it. I know there's been rumors of some retiring. I don't want to go into that because that's just rumors. But I'm excited to see what you guys can do next season for sure. If you stay there, of course. Who knows if Overwatch League will come and pick you up. So tier 2, I would say it's like not dying, kind of dying, but I feel like the format and the money prices and such are really limiting of how long you can play Contenders. Because if you're 18, 19, for example in the US, and you're at uni, a lot of people get jobs on the side so you can pay off student loans and student debts and so on and so on. But in Contenders, if you're not on the best team but you are a good player and you're getting lucky, you might have to retire or find another team or no game, sorry, because you have bills to pay, sorry. And the older you get, the harder it is to make Contenders a job because it's a lot of scrimming, it's a lot of VOD reviewing, it's a lot of game time on Overwatch, and then you're supposed to, for example, if you want to go to school, but you need money. Like it's very like, I feel like the tier 2 system is very shit, kind of. Is my opinion from it. This format this season was just straight up wank, in my opinion. I can say it with. I don't mind the tournament format, but I don't think like the format where only some games got streamed is really shit, in my opinion.
I somewhat like I agree that every game should be streamed, right?
Yeah,
Because
that's my biggest like
really
thinking.
hard
Yeah.
for it. But I do enjoy the tournament format more than the league format, right?
Yeah,
Because
100%,
I feel
100%.
like with the league format, you don't get a lot of games, right?
Yeah.
Like if you are like the season before this, you had like 5 weeks of one game, and then you already had like playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Which is it's okay, but you just don't get as many games. And I really liked the tournament format where every week you get to play, like if you're a top team, you get to play 4 games, right? And you get a lot of tournament experience because at the end of the day, that's what these players need, right? They need to play a lot of Contenders games and a lot of tournament matches with high pressure so that eventually they can perform in Overwatch League if they go there. And that's why Korean teams and Korean players, for example, are getting picked up so much because they already have a LAN format right in Korea, right? So if teams pick up Korean players, they know, hey, they're going to perform on LAN because they did so in Korea. And it's same for like the culture there. Everybody already has a team house, that kind of stuff. So it's I like the tournament format as a whole. I do agree every game should be broadcasted. And I hope that for next Contenders like season, right? The season 2 this year, it'll be improved like they made a Reddit thread about how they would improve it, right? They now have to follow up on their word, which I think they will, because otherwise they wouldn't make a Reddit thread like this because everybody can just copy it and be like, hey, what did you really do?
Yeah, you know? Yeah, because like like meaning wank is because I think the format, the tournament format as well. I think a tournament format itself, there you go, is good in my opinion. I think that's like I really like seeing it in Overwatch League where you have 3 weeks of play, and then after that you see where which seeding you get, and then even though you win, you have a losers. No, was there a losers bracket in Overwatch League?
No,
there wasn't.
Not a losers bracket.
Yeah, I don't mind. Like honestly, I know one of my friends like having the loser bracket, and then one of my friends don't like having a loser bracket. What is your opinion on a loser bracket? Do you want it or not?
I think for the final playoffs, it's important, right? Because like you saw last season, it creates incredible storylines, like with San Francisco Shock, who got knocked out in round 1 and then went on to sweep the tournament, right? Creates incredible stuff. But also, if you would have a losers bracket in all of these like one weekend kind of playoff things, there'd be way too many games. There were already too many games like in the May Melee tournament, right? There was like 7 games each weekend day. Like I watched all of them, but that's because I'm a coach, right? But if I was just a casual plebeian watching, I wouldn't be able to watch all of those games. It's way too many. So if you make it double the limbs, you'd have to make it at least 2 weeks or maybe even 3 weeks. And that's just impossible. So I think time constraints, you just can't do double A limb for like a Melee format. And I like how they're doing it now.
Yeah, I like so like I hope they continue with this tournament format where they have 3 weeks or maybe it was 4 or even 5 numbers.
I believe now what they're doing now is like 2 weeks with bans, not the bans they have now, 2 weeks or like 1 week without bans and then the tournament.
Yeah, so 3
or
weeks.
Maybe 2 week, and then tournament.
Yeah. I think something like that. But I like that the May Melee and Summer Showdown don't have loser bracket, but I think in like Contenders, loser bracket, I think that's good. That's just my opinion. Because I think like Raspberry Racers, they got knocked out by British Hurricane in round one, I think, because they like with this format. The only thing I don't like about this format is that you can stay in trials for a long period of time. So like there's many ODs. For example, like you get an OD and you go to trial, and then you lose trials. But you just stay in trial for the next time. I think like the beginning of the format was shit, where you had like if you lose one game, then you're still in trials, and then next week. I think it was so messy. I like that like the tournament format, and then like maybe like I'm not saying like I'm pretty shit at this, but like I think it would be fun having like a like 2 weeks or 3 weeks to have play-ins for seeding, and then if you lose, and then go to the loser bracket, and then like the two worst teams or something like that. Obviously, I'm pretty sure of this again, but they would fight out who to go to trials or something like that. But I just don't like how it was like, what was it like, almost like 3 months of this OD trials contenders where you would just be dangling back and forth from all three. I think it was so much that people couldn't really pay attention. And me myself, I got so confused. I never knew which teams were in contenders or in trials. It was so confusing. So, like, what do you think they should do with that type of format? Because I think the tournament format is really good. I like that. I like that it's not a league, but where you dangle between trials and OD, and then you can stay in trials for like a certain amount of time, and then if you lose that, you're still in trials until like the end of the season. I feel like it's such a mess. Like, what's your opinion on that?
Honestly, I haven't looked into it too much because we've never been afraid to drop the trials, right? I think obviously there can be min-maxing on this, but at the end of the day, if your team is good enough, then you will stay in contenders, which eventually, oftentimes those contenders trials, contenders teams, they're just inconsistent, maybe one tricks of a meta, that kind of stuff, and that's why they're dropping up and down. Or I'm honestly not too sure what they could do about that, because obviously you have to have a threshold, right? Of like, hey, this team makes it, that team doesn't. This is the cutoff, and then teams that are just in the middle of the cutoff every single time, it's rough for them, and maybe rough for the spectator as well, because they have to like check, hey, who's playing this week in contenders. But I don't think I minded this too much, because what often happened before is that you had contenders trials teams that just barely didn't make it, but were good enough to make it, and then they didn't get another chance.
Yeah.
And this season, at least those teams got another chance to make it to contenders again, right? But if this season they didn't have these play-in contenders trials tournaments, then Raspberry wouldn't have been in contenders at all, because they joined late, and they wouldn't have been able to like do that crazy sweep, right? So I do like that they are making a chance to still get into contenders mid-season, even if it makes it a little harder to like keep track of who's in and who's out. Because what often happened is that contenders is pretty long, and then one team would shit the bed in like the first 2 weeks. They'd completely revamp their roster, and then they'd be 8th place and not be able to drop down,
Yeah.
So that's one thing I do like, that teams that are shit, they go down to contenders trials, and teams that are good in contenders trials, they can go up into contenders. It's just hard for those middle teams, right, that are just a little bit too good for contenders trials, and are too bad for contenders.
Yeah, like the thing is like the thoughts behind it is pretty good in my opinion. Like, of course, I think like what you say right now like is good. I think the thoughts behind it is good, but I think for me and for viewers, it's just hard because the info on contenders page is so slow, and then half of the games aren't even streamed, so you don't even get to watch them. So you have to follow them on Twitter, and then the Twitter might be delayed because people, some teams don't even post their score on Twitter. So you're like, they're like, who the fuck is playing like now? Like, which players are there? There's no info on that and that. So you just sit there in the dark. It's like that's one of the issue why I said the format was wank, because like no trials games was streamed from contenders. It was just from like POVs. So it's so confusing. So if they're gonna have this, they should stream OD playoff games, as many as they can, and they should stream every single trials game, because like not knowing like which team plays when, who's on the team, if the Twitter social media is like really shit, like it's just like you get very little info. You sit here in the dark, and then you put up contenders, and they're like, wait, who the fuck is that team? Why are they here? What happened to this team? And like, where's, for example, like Clockwork and Vendetta was in Contenders and they dropped their trials. And I know one of my friends who hasn't paid that much attention, but is a Clockwork fan. He was watching Contenders and then he saw the schedule and was like, where the fuck is Clockwork? Why are they not playing? Why haven't I seen them? And we barely, some teams we barely even got to see on stream. I only think we saw Clockwork like once. And I think it's like very important for Contenders to stream every single game. Trials as well. Like, I think players lose motivation if there's no stream. Because, like, who are you going to show? You're going to show the coaches on the enemy team, the players, maybe like a VOD, but like, who's going to scout you? Like, you know, so I think it's very important that they put, they stream every single game. I like that they're having more, you know, they're broadcasting it more on the Overwatch League channel. Some games have been broadcasted there. They're putting it on the after like the ending segment. It's like, remember to check out tier 2. I think putting more money into the scene would help, like a little bit at least, like giving like more prizes, being more active on Twitter, because Overwatch Contenders is like dead on Twitter. They post like nada. So if they be more active there, post like every single game, and maybe like some play of the games, some interviews on Twitter. Like nothing is posted there. It's just like, I don't remember last time they posted like a lot. And I think maybe I know a lot of people want skins. Like, what's your opinion on Contenders teams' skins?
I think it's too like it's not good. Like you're gonna have a different Contenders team and Contenders every time if you're doing the format they're doing now. So it's not reliable. I think what they need to do, like you've been saying, is bigger social media presence. Post Contenders whenever it's online on the Battle.net launcher. Have maybe an in-game thing like they have for Overwatch League for Contenders. That would be really good. Stream every single game. Maybe Contenders Trials or the top of Contenders Trials, but definitely Contenders. Maybe a little bit more resources and allow third-party tournaments, right?
Yeah, that's exactly.
Also
Yeah,
a big
yeah.
thing for the Contenders teams is that, you know, we have a match every 2 weeks. And during the Contender season, the prizes are okay for the top teams, right?
For
like you get
teams,
10K per win, divided by, you know, 6 players, maybe coaches, is like a little more than, you know, you do the maths, but a little more than 1K per player each week if you're really good.
Yeah.
And then you showdown should have happened, gauntlet should have happened. They have pretty good prize pools, could be more. I don't think that's the problem though. I think it's just really the exposure the players are getting, and that, like you're saying, like they're already doing interviews, so why not just post them on your social media? And now they're doing like player highlights. So I'm optimistic of what they're doing now, and I'm hoping that next season will be better. But I think there's still so much they can improve, especially with the third-party tournaments and the promoting of such things and the promoting of Contenders in general.
Yeah.
But I can also see their perspective of them, right? They are trying to make money with Overwatch League, and Tier 2 at the end of the day doesn't make money. So it's hard as well for them, right? So you have to find a middle road, and I'm liking that they're being a little more open about Tier 2 right now and the state that it's in. And I'm optimistic for next season that there's going to be a more representation for Tier 2. They already did a decent job putting it on the Overwatch League, doing the after talks on the, what's it called, like watch point stuff for Contenders. That's all good, and I'm excited that they do more of that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah,
because at the start of this year it was abysmal, but now like the last few weeks it's actually been good.
Yeah, I feel like even just like Overwatch League retweeting a tweet from Overwatch Contenders, like even just Overwatch League tweeting, "Hey, today is a big final." Like one for the European final or any final. I don't think Overwatch League tweeted anything about it. Like even just a retweet, anything. Like I know a lot of casters, Overwatch League casters, tweeted about it, but like even just like a retweet from Overwatch League could help so much. They have like over like 100K followers, so I think that would help a lot. So I've gotten a few questions from my Discord and from Twitter, and one of them was, or multiple of them was, what could be done to improve interest in the Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 scene further, which we've kind of answered. Do you want to deliberate on that anymore, or do you think we can put
I
that
think
dead for now?
all the points I've listed earlier, right?
Yeah.
Of well, the whole sum up I did,
Mm.
kind of answer what needs to be done for tier two. I
Yeah.
think for tier one, it's just that the YouTube algorithm isn't that great right now. There's
No,
no like
really shit.
good stream section. I have to search for streams
Same.
if I'm trying to find the Overwatch League stream
Mm.
instead of like having a section like Twitch. Twitch, I instantly click top left, say Overwatch League's online, boom, click.
Yeah.
Um, so having more awareness on YouTube side for when Overwatch League is online, I already think the tokens coming back is a good step.
Yeah.
I
Same.
think they need to improve YouTube algorithm. I think clips could be very big for both tier one and tier two,
Mm.
because seeing a player do a sick play on Twitter because of a clip you made, right? That's really good, but you can't do that right now in on the YouTube viewer. I can at least can't make a clip, can't
You can't. You
upload it
can't.
very
No, no,
easy.
no.
It's a very very hard way to do it. So that's really struggling. Um, and yeah, I think if YouTube algorithm becomes a little bit better, especially for contenders too, right? Because contenders on Twitch at about 5-6K viewers average, more in the finals. Contenders on YouTube on a good day, it's 1,000.
It's really really
So
shit.
so a little bit more awareness, a little bit easier to find these streams, I think is really important. Um, and just all the things I've listed earlier, right? And then tier three, I think it's up to open the vision to maybe become a little bit better. But if you want to get your name out there as a tier three team, the social media management from a lot of these team Twitters also hasn't been that good, right? Like you
Very bad.
say, sometimes I have to like ask people in DMs what the score was for
Yeah.
the game instead of them posting it on Twitter.
Mm.
So social media managed for a lot of these, T3 teams, even though they have no funding, which is rough to say, right? Could be a little bit better. But I think social media management for contenders and even for a lot of Overwatch League teams hasn't been the best in Overwatch.
Yeah, man. I agree. I agree for sure. Um, and another question here, which I agree with as well, and which is a pretty good question. Uh, what hero bands? Hero bands were the thing they implemented. And 2-2. What do you think about 2-2 and hero bands? And what do you think about hero bands being indefinitely removed from Overwatch and slowly removed from finals like Overwatch League finals and Contenders playoffs finals? What do you think about all that?
I think hero bands as a concept, I like, because I don't like playing the game or like the same meta over and over and over again, right? Especially for a viewership experience, seeing different characters that you like is important. I think they could do that through more aggressive balancing, but then
Agreed.
again, that would shake up a lot of stuff as well, right?
Yeah.
So it's also maybe not the perfect option. They could do that through letting it in the team's hands, which things could be banned, which was the initial idea.
Yeah,
But I
that's
think this is a fix, and I've said from the very start, this fix is fine. I like this fix just for viewership's sake, but I feel like it should be longer periods, because that 1 week period where you had to create a
horrible.
strat, if it was good or not, it was bad because you only had a through scrim block. So I'm glad they've increased it to 2. I also don't think there's that much point for hero pools in ranked, because if there's a good, like, let's say May Samba is banned, then Hammond mains would have the best time ever, right?
Exactly.
And Hammond mains could climb to 4.7 because Hammond's so good that week, and then they could just camp for the rest of the season, and they'd be looked at as a really good player. While maybe if Sombra was available as a counter pick, they'd only be 4.5, right? So it inflated SR. It made the game like less versatile, less fun, maybe. Especially when it was different hero pools from OWL and contenders. That was even worse, but they changed that later. And I think they're just fine tuning, and they keep tuning. And I like that they're making changes fast now instead of waiting a long time. So even though the system might not even be perfect now, they're improving. They're changing it quickly. And I think especially with these 2 week hero bans, it'll be a lot less stressful upon coaches and players.
Yeah, so we'll get back to in a second, because one of my Discord members as well asked, What do you think about changing hero bans so each team bans one character from each role on a per game basis? And as many know, we saw this in the Korean Showdown match, which I loved. I loved that they how the teams got the bans, but the problem is there if it's over like a 1 year period and heroes barely get nerfed, you're gonna see a lot of the same nerfs like Orisa, Mei, Sombra,
Same bans,
Brig.
yeah.
So like, what do you think about each team bans one character or maybe two DPS characters, and then more balancing the heroes? Like, what do you think about that?
Okay, so let me go back a little bit. I think hero bans for each individual team would open up interesting strategies, right?
Yeah,
But at the end of the day, I do feel like in games like League of Legends or Dota or games where you have bans, there is a ton of characters available that you can ban, right? And
yeah,
you can pick. I think in Overwatch, just in general, maybe wasn't ready yet for hero bans. There's just, especially in tank and support category, there's just
very
not
little.
that many characters,
Yeah,
right? So it's a good concept for Overwatch 2, 100%, because
100%.
there
I
will be
agree.
more characters, maybe two more tanks, two more supports, and then you can have one ban in each category, right? But I feel like right now in Overwatch, there's um, comp defining characters, right? You can't play Rush without Lucio. You can't play Spam without Orisa. You can't play Dive without Diva. There's comp defining characters, and once you ban one of those characters, you can completely ban out a team strategy, right? Let's say you're against the Houston Outlaws, and they really like playing Dive, right? They're really good at playing Dive. So you ban Dante's Tracer, and then you ban Dante's Echo, and then you ban Diva, right? And then they literally can't play Dive anymore. And then you just ruin a strat for a team that they would otherwise, be good at playing, and you're then um, forcing them to flex, which could be a good thing. But I also feel like it's very like hard for those teams, right? To
Yeah.
have to prepare for every single week that you can't get banned out. And I just think there's not enough characters to play metas and comps while having some of those characters banned out. So I think it'd be very frustrating and stressful for a lot of teams. And I think it'd be good for maybe 1 or 2 weeks, but then after that it'd be bad again. Just like how now, right, with the playoffs not being hero bans, you saw a lot of different comps. You saw a ton of them. You saw dive, you saw spam, you even saw some rush, right?
Yeah.
You saw mostly spam. But I feel like if they would remove hero bans as a whole, which a lot of people I've seen vying for, even, um, it's bad because then it's just going to be 2 weeks. People are going to figure out the strongest thing, and everything's going to be the same.
Mm.
Everyone's going to play the same comp over and over again, and the only thing that will save it is either aggressive balancing or reintroducing hero bans.
What do you think about 2-2-2 lock?
I think I like 222. I think I like 222 lock from the perspective of career security,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Because you always need tank players, you always need DPS players, you always need support players on each team, and each team knows, hey, if we're getting 9 players, let's make sure we get 3 in each role, Instead of, hey, we know tanks are super strong, so let's get an extra tank player, not pick up that extra DPS player.
Hmm.
Or because free DPS has been so good for 2 months, let's pick up no off tank this season.
Yeah.
It's very specific things, but I feel like for the longevity of this game, I actually really like 222 lock just because it makes it easier for the devs to balance too, right? Like if you don't have to worry about, hey, buffing let's say buffing Baptiste here would make a free support lineup super OP because Baptiste is basically like an extra DPS. I'm just saying something wild, right? But it makes it easier to balance the game, and it creates more job security. And I also feel like even though there's longer queues in ranked and stuff, just people knowing, hey, I'm not going to get a troll team where we have 4 DPS players and no tanks. That's really good.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. I think I could like no role. Like I think no role lock in ranked is fun. I'm gonna be honest. I think
You
it's kind
think
of fun
so?
there.
You think so?
I
I feel like the amount of games I got with 4 DPS mains and no tank main, and then having to force one guy on tank and
yeah.
having him be shit is outweighing the fact that sometimes you get really creative comps.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, that's what I mean. I think it's kind of like fun. Obviously, I think it's gonna be good to have two different queue systems. So you have open queue and you have roll lock. I think that can be kind of fun, because if you, for example, if you are on roll queue and then you play a lot of tank, and then you just lose some SR, and then you go over to open queue, then you still have like another SR, but then you give example you can flex on other heroes. I think that didn't make that much sense, but anyway, I think it's good having two different queues. I think it's going to create more fun games, because if you're bored 2-2, you can hop over an open queue where there's more chance you might get shit comps, but it can be more fun maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also show your flexibility and practice heroes in the SR you actually are, for example. I think it's a lot. I think it's going to be fun with those two different things. But I think I'm a bit in the middle between roll lock and open queue for no open lock, whatever it's called, for competitive play. I'm a little bit in pro play. Sorry, I'm a little bit in the middle there. Um, I'm open to both because I like seeing goats. I'm a huge goats fan. I love seeing goats. But I know for a lot of people who maybe new or are not big fan of the goats, they stopped watching Overwatch League because it was just ghosts for a year almost. And then it comes to Doomfist, Double Shield, and then they're even more bored. I know a lot of people miss Dive, so do I. But I'm liking the direction on which it's going. But I feel like we need a little bit, like at least a little bit more. I feel like we need more nerfs and not more buffs. I feel like devs are buffing heroes instead of nerfing them, and then every hero is going to get more buffed, and then everything is going to be, yeah. I think devs should nerf heroes more, and then and focus less on buffs. But you know, I'm really impressed by the team. The Echo hero itself was a very impressive hero of how she was created, like her abilities, her ultimate. I think that shows that Overwatch developers are they're very smart, and they're looking to do some good things. I can't wait for what heroes that are coming, especially like heroes like Mauga that we heard about, Junker Queen. Oof.
I don't know any of these, but I do like Echo as a character, and I think
Yeah,
she was a little bit busted when she came out,
I
right? But
agreed.
now
Very agreed.
they also the most recent patch, right? They've nerfed her range on her E, and that's one of the nerfs I suggested.
Mm.
Just make her more, um, have to commit, just like Genji has to dash in, right, to get a kill.
Yeah,
They've also buffed Genji.
I saw that.
I think you can't just nerf or just buff. There needs to be a balance of like you have to buff some characters, you have to nerf, you have to rework. I think that's the one thing I'll leave over to the devs. I think they haven't always been insane at like balancing stuff right,
Mm.
but at the end of the day, no game is perfect. No game
I agree.
gets their balance perfect. There's always things that are OP, just because of how metas and also community perceivement works, right? Because everybody thought Ash was garbage. Ash gets one decent. I'd say the buff was decent size.
Yeah,
I
I
want to
agreed. I
say
agreed.
little, but now Ash is only played, right?
Yeah, pretty
Like the
much.
only hit scan that's played, pretty much. So it's like there's a balance between what the community perceives as good and what's actually good.
Hmm.
For example, Torbjorn's super OP right now. He's like a 60% win rate in ranked or something
Yeah,
crazy.
insane.
And yeah, um, obviously Torbjorn's better in ranked than in
Compared to play.
pro play,
Hmm.
but yet not every team's playing Torb, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah,
I think Torb actually more of a counter pick to flankers, but
I agree. Um, so I got a lot of questions about like Blizzard balancing the game around less mechanical based heroes and such, and how could the competitive scene of Overwatch improve and improvement of all that stuff. We talked about that. So that we can continue with some other questions that I'm actually really interested in hearing. We'll do this first. That is, name some players that deserve a shot at Overwatch League. And I'm going to say, name some players that deserve a shot at Overwatch League that is not Young and Beautiful or Dutch. So any hero, no, any players, and let's do Europe, and then we can maybe do NA after. In Europe, contenders, not who's from Europe, so players who are from Europe are playing NA contenders, but from EU contenders, are there any players that like really like show like really like shines out, or what's it called, Like it's really like above everybody else that really could be an Overwatch League player.
I think British Hurricane, I think, is a no-brainer where they have a lot of good players. So
Agreed.
I think all of them could be a viable option, at least a trial for Overwatch League teams.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'll shy a little bit away from them. I think not Young and Beautiful. I think Alex 2704.
He's pretty good, yeah.
I think he's on Sheer Cold.
Yes.
Yeah, I think he's very, very good.
Mm.
He definitely has potential. He's just an upcoming star now. He's still pretty young. He's shown to improve a lot. He's pretty flexible too.
He's impressed me. He's been pretty good.
I think there's a lot of really good flex supports in EU, like Ripa. I think Molf also deserves a shout out from British Hurricane. I think he's been so consistent on every single character he plays.
Yeah, I think the tank duo. Of British Hurricane has just been insane. The Hardy Molfig is really impressive.
Really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Linu on Ex Oblivion's really surprised me.
Yeah, me as well. Yeah.
Very good coming in, but I think he is one of the better hit scans in the EU right now and improving rapidly from just being a ranked star to getting picked up last season to now being really, really good. He was really good at Ash. But I think a lot of people deserve trials and a shot. I think Saiku on...
I think, isn't he...
Muddy Crew was incredible.
Isn't he 17? Sorry, Saiku, if you watch this. I'm not 100% sure, because I know he was like... I think it's 17 or 18, if I'm not too mistaken.
He really surprised me on how fast he picked up Echo. And,
yeah, he's pretty good.
How good his Torb and his May are. But obviously, throughout this contender season, I haven't seen all these flex DPS play like, a lot of the standard DPS too. Like, you don't see Farah, Genji, Doomfist play a lot of the time right now, right? So it's very much based on this meta and what they're good at right now. But maybe there's other players that are like really good at characters that I don't know. I think there's a lot of EU talent coming up though, and every time one of the old guard kind of retires, I feel like an even more skilled player comes back in and then starts grinding their ass off,
Yeah, I think there's some pretty good players like Renee from Ex Oblivion. He's a friend of mine, but I think he's been pretty good Sigma. I haven't seen much of his Diva. I think his Sigma's been pretty good. I'm watching it a lot. I think he's pretty good, and I think also Sky Reaper from Raspberry Racers has been just immense. He was one of the MVP candidates. I think he's been just insane. His Sanyata has just been out of this world, and I think same for Cloud and Watery as well. I didn't know much about Cloud when he came in, but he's been pretty good. But as you said, it hasn't been that many different flex DPS. It's been pretty much the same. So I agree, it's pretty hard there. But
Cloud's really good, yeah.
Yeah, and I also think if you want to mention Dutch players, I think Dance has been pretty good. He got a little bit unlucky with Sky Foxes and Anata Academy. I think he got a little bit unlucky there with like Academy.
I think that's because I've played with him so much, right? I think he's a true leader for any team that needs he is really good at calling tempo, when to push, and how to push. I think a challenge for Dance would maybe be to, get some of his other characters up to his Orisa and Hammond gameplay, because I think his Orisa and Hammond are phenomenal, almost best in EU contenders, right? Maybe behind Hadi. But I think he really needs to keep grinding the Winston and this Reinhardt too, right? If he can get all his characters on that Orisa level, and he hasn't been the same that long comparatively, and he's really hungry, he can get out really fast.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, not like a few minutes ago, one player, and I mentioned Hadi, one player that has just been, I thought maybe would won MP or be in the MVP candidates. I'm very happy for Hadi and Scraper to be there, but Mulfig has been fucking nuts on Sigma. I'm gonna be honest here. His Sigma is, he said he has the best Sigma in EU, and maybe one of the best Sigmas in the world right now. I think he said I'm not 100% sure. I know he said one of the best in the league and in EU, but I think maybe not he mentioned it, but I know it's some Contenders people mentioned as well that he might be one of the best in the world, top 10 in the world or something. I know I've watched a lot of his Sigma, and I think his Sigma is actually insane. So if I'm gonna name 2 players out of the whole league that I 100% think should get a spot in Overwatch League, it has to be the two tanks of British Hurricane, Hadi and Multi, because I think them two as even a duo or even just a split, but them two as a duo on a good Overwatch League team with like good DPS and support, I think that could be really good. Again, that's just my opinion. I'm not professional coach, professional player, but I just think they're two really good players. Have impressed me a lot. So if we move away from EA contenders and talk about NA contenders, where there's a lot of talent, and obviously Kevster doesn't count now. There's a lot of players there. Obviously, I'm very biased because my two Norwegian homies, Decred and Onigod, are there, and they're both veterans of the game and have been in contenders for so long. But if you can name some players right now that you think stands out, who would it be?
I think Kevster obviously stood out a lot.
Yeah, but he was in Overwatch League now, so forget about him.
Yeah.
Other than that, he was smurfing in contenders. So
I think he gone. Obviously,
he's insane.
Second win, he is really good, and
he's insane.
It's a shame all the stuff happened. Like we won't go into that, right?
Yeah.
But he definitely deserves a shot in my opinion.
Same.
I think AFox.
Agreed.
On I think
Doge.
Yeah, from Doge. I think Elriz from Third Impact is the most mechanically skilled flex support in the region.
He's insane.
I think AFox brings a lot comb-wise and veteran-wise, but I think Elriz is just so good mechanically that it really depends on what you need on your team, who I would pick up between the two, right? I think Decod is mechanically skilled on almost every main tank, which you don't see a lot, right? Oftentimes main tanks will be good at Reinhardt or they'll be good at Orisa, but he is good at every single one, I think. And with proper coaching, I think he could be really good, right? Like his mechanics are top tier. So if he just figures out like what his timings needs to be and that kind of stuff, I think he's really good. Other players that come to mind, maybe not on Doge and Third Impact. It's hard. I feel like that contenders region is so top stacked. I feel like it's really Doge, Third Impact.
Yeah, I feel like there's like a lot of
stepped up, but they also have a very weird lineup where I think speedily, if he wasn't 16, or I think he's maybe 17 now, but if he wasn't underage, he would be definitely really good for Al because I think he's very good.
I think Caden, his name is the other hitscan. He was rumored to sign for Vancouver as a 7th, but he didn't. Or Caden or Jaden, something like that.
I
but he's an insane flex hitscan, sorry, as well.
I don't know too much about him. I think that region as a whole, I think we've scrimmed some of those teams, and I think it's also a very talented region, right? And I'm glad a lot of those players are getting picked up, right? Like almost the whole of second win got picked up. Kefter just got picked up, maybe more.
I hope Onigod. I really hope Onigod.
I think Onigod is very like a classic hit scan player that really can pop off at any moment, right?
Yeah.
I also think like he's like a true veteran of the scene as well. He's been in there for so long.
He's been there for so long, yeah.
And now he's again on a top team. Definitely deserves it. But I think Doge and Third Impact as whole teams just really good. Especially impressive from Doge to like get that far and kind of coach themselves because they have so many veterans. I think it's very impressive too.
Yeah, I feel so bad for OG. I remember talking to him 2.5 years ago. And one of the coaches who I forgot his name, but he was like an okay coach. He said right there before we even trialed OG like had only been in like one okay tier 3 team, and then he got picked up for some high tier 3 team, and then Contenders and so on. And like 2 years ago or maybe 1.5, something like that, whatever time it was, this guy said literally to me the first time he was in my call, he said, "Yo, comboed. There's one dude in these trials you should look after. OG will become one of the best main supports in the world in the future, and he will 100% be one of the best in Contenders and hopefully in Overwatch League." He said that, and I remember that. And OG has impressed me so much from Bermuda to XL2 and now on Team Doge. And I feel so sorry that he's not over 18, because I think he could be an insane main support in Overwatch League team right now, even though he's of course underage. I feel like he's such a good main support, especially his Lucio. I think his Lucio is insane.
He reminds me of like all those mechanically really skilled Lucios that just got picked up this season, right? Like Funny Asher, like FD God. I think he could definitely be a top Lucio mostly in Overwatch League.
Mm.
He's definitely mechanically really good, and you see
100%.
it too, right? Like if you look at the rank leaderboards, for example, he's always like top 10, grinding his ass off. I think that matters a lot, right?
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I think if OG would be 18 right now, he'd probably get picked up for some team because I do
100%.
think main support is one of the roles that are getting improved on the most
Yeah, yeah,
throughout
yeah.
the seasons. Like I remember season one, not calling anyone out, of course, but there were so many shit main supports
A
that
lot of main
were
supports,
were
way too
there
many.
for their calling, and I feel like the teams are shifting more toward main tank callers and then having mechanically really strong main supports.
Mm. Yeah. All right. So, uh, we're gonna end it here with two questions. It's a joke question. A guy asked, or Trigger Kid asked, why is Bastion in the game? Why is Bastion in the game? And why are people mad when you battle Mercy? Okay, there's obviously we can't really do much about that, to be honest. And people are probably mad when you battle Mercy because you're supposed to be a support. But we've actually seen battle Mercies in Overwatch League. Neptuno, especially known
I
for
mean,
battle
is that
Mercy.
a bad overseas that there's somebody at he sees his team for HP and then
Yeah.
he just goes out with the Glock. I don't think that's too bad or mercy, but
No,
definitely there are times when you should pull out the Glock.
I actually agree. I actually agree. So the two questions here that we have here, I'll do. They're kind of the same, but we'll do this one first. So why did you decide to become staff, and what are tips you would give for people who are interested in helping or becoming staff in tier 2 and tier 1 teams?
I think I was obviously a player before myself. I was a Contenders player, and I really decided. I didn't even decide to suddenly become staff. So somebody asked me to coach a Contenders team, Brusen, at the time. I think it was 1 point was the team, and he asked, "Hey, can you come help us out for this season?" And I wasn't doing anything. I was just looking for team, grinding my ass off. And then I tried coaching, and I really enjoyed it. So then straight from there, I started head coaching them because they enjoyed working with me. I enjoyed working with them. So it was like a mutual kind of respect that way. And then after that, I got a trial for the rain. So it all went very quickly. Um, and I would say that I was always like a player that thought a lot about the game.
Mm.
And I think from there, I really like got recognized by other teams. Like, hey, this guy was a player, but he can word himself really well, and he can actually coach players and give insights and teach people. So from there, I just sticked with it, and I enjoyed every second of it. Don't regret it a day. And then what was the second question?
The second question was, what are tips you could give for people who are interested in helping staff tier 2 tier 1 teams, so becoming pretty much staff in tier 2 tier 1 teams?
So yeah, I think starting out as staff is hard, right? I think you really have to like create a philosophy for yourself, like the way I want to coach, and maybe take notes from like other coaches, how they coach. I answer a lot of questions on my stream, for example, like how I coach stuff, when I coach stuff, what I do when I'm coaching. I'm very open about that kind of stuff. But I think definitely make a document and notes for yourself. Like if I was on, a contenders team right now, how would I coach them? How would I, get them through the season? This is only for coach right now, but I don't know too much about being a manager, of course. Um, and then really create a style and philosophy for yourself because no coach is the same. But as long as you do your job well, I believe you can be a good coach, and then start working with tier 3 teams. Like there's no tier 3 team that will just say, hey, if you're a good coach, like, hey, we don't want to trial you, because oftentimes they just don't have a coach, never work with a coach. So you can really like get your name in the scene, help players out, start creating a resume for yourself, and then start applying for tier 2 teams. Really kind of create that path to pro. Don't be afraid. And this is something I haven't done too much myself, right? But don't be afraid to message people, right? Like to message people, hey, what's the advice you can give me? Or hey, I'm working on this and this right now. I'm working with this team. I'm struggling with this thing. Do you have any advice for me? I get a lot of people DMing me, right? Like hey, I'm struggling with this and this right now. How do I, teach the players this? Or if I were a coach, how would I get to tier two? I've answered a lot of these questions. And I think it always comes down to put yourself out there. Message people your resume. Say you're looking for teams. Say you're looking to be an assistant coach first and then a head coach. Don't be shy is like the biggest thing, because especially as staff, it's hard to get noticed. But by showing people your work and work examples and how hard you work, that's how you get noticed, I believe.
Yeah, very good advice. Very good advice. That I think many people out there who are looking to become staff should take that advice, because that's pretty good advice, and you have that advice from a very highly named name in the coaching scene. And then the other question was, what I think you kind of answered it, but what does it take to be a coach? What prior experience do you need, and what do you focus on if you're a coach or trying to become one? You kind of did answer that,
I answered what you have to focus on if you're trying to become one,
yeah,
right? Um, but I think just what it takes is a lot of hours, a lot of dedication. Like a
I
lot
agree.
of people think, hey, um, you retire as a player, you can easily become a coach, or being a coach isn't that hard, but it takes more time than playing. Like I have to watch the scrims, make notes on the scrims, prepare a review, do a review of the team,
Mm,
do individual coaching as well, right? It takes way more time than playing the game,
yeah,
right? When you're playing, you only have to show up to reviews and scrims, and then you're done. But the coach, they stay after time, they talk to players. It's a lot more work. You have to
it's a
prepare to
grind.
put in the hours, but what you get back for it is like a lot of gratitude, a lot of, the biggest thing for me is seeing people improve on a day-to-day basis makes me happy, like being able to help these players and shaping their careers
Mm.
is a fantastic feat. And I think that's really what makes it worth it, but I would say it's more of a grind than playing. There's less pressure because
Yeah,
there's not as much of a need to perform, but there is more of a time commitment.
yeah, yeah. I very agree. I wasn't a coach necessarily. I was a manager and assistant coach, but it's a lot of time, which is why I just stopped it completely, because I don't have the time. I'm a very impatient dude, and coaching is just like, I have huge respect for everybody who coaches. It's huge respect for you as well. Um, but yeah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I think a lot of people are really excited to hear this, and hear all these questions about contenders and tier two and all of that stuff. If you guys want to see Casores in another episode in the future, message me, or make sure to hit the like button, of course. All of Cass's socials will be down in the description. He streams on Twitch a lot. He does a lot of GeoGuessr. He's actually pretty good at that as well. He does coaching, VODs, custom games, everything pretty much. So please go follow him on Twitch, on Twitter, and I'll leave my socials down as well. I stream every single day. And if anybody else you guys want to see in the podcast, please do leave a comment down below. Of course, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Shout out to all the players we talked about. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Anything you want to say, Cass, before we end it?
I would say thank you for having me, and I'll see you guys later.
Peace.